know of gardens, literature, travel, and the dance, and spoken at some length about composers for the pianoforte.
Yes, sister.
But how is your acquaintance to be long supported under such extraordinary dispatch of every subject of discourse? Another meeting will examine his sentiments on the picaresque and second marriages, and then you can have nothing further to ask.
Eleanor, is this fair? Is this just? Are my ideas so scanty? But I see what you mean. I have been too at my ease, too open, too sincere. I have erred against every commonplace notion of decorum. I have been happy and frank where I ought to have been reserved, spiritless, dull and deceitful. Had I talked only of the weather and the roads, this reproach would have been spared.
Forgive me, sister, it was in jest. I should never wish to check the delight of your conversation with our new friend. But every day.
Well, indeed he does come every day. But I believe it assists Marianne's perfect recovery.
Well, never has confinement been less irksome.
I believe him to be exactly formed so as to engage Marianne's heart, as he has that natural ardour of mind which she so admires. They read, they talk, they sing together. It's all perfectly innocent, and her taste exactly.
I see nothing to censure in him, though it could be wished he was better known to us.
Brandon, you see, is the kind of man of whom everybody speaks well, but nobody cares about, whom all are delighted to see, but nobody remembers to talk.
That is exactly what I think of him.
Do not boast of it, sister, for it is injustice in both of you.
That he is patronised by you is certainly in his favour, but I think it more your kindness than your interest. Being approved by Lady Middleton and Mrs. Jennings, well, that would be censure to anyone else.
If their praise be censure, your censure may be praise, for they are not more undiscerning than you are prejudiced and unjust.
Dear Eleanor, in defence of your protégé, you can even be saucy.
My protégé, as you call him, is a sensible man, and sense will always have attractions for me. Yes, Marianne, even in a man between 30 and 40. He has seen a great deal of the world, has read, and has a thinking mind. He has always answered my inquiries with the readiness of good breeding and good nature.
That is to say, he has told you, in the East Indies the climate is hot, and the mosquitoes troublesome.
Perhaps his observations extend to the existence of nabobs and whatchamacallits and palanquins.
I venture to say his observations have stretched much further than your candour. But why should you dislike him?
I do not dislike him. On the contrary, I think him a very respectable man, who has everyone's good word, more money than he can spend, more time than he knows how to employ, and 2 new coats every year.
But neither spirit, genius, nor taste. His understanding has no brilliancy, and his feelings no passion.
You decide on his imperfections in the mass, but not specifically. I can only pronounce him a sensible man.
Miss Dashwood, you endeavour to disarm me with reason, but it will not do. I can think of 3 unanswerable reasons for disliking Colonel Brandon.
1.
He has threatened me with rain when I wished good weather.
2.
He finds fault with my character.
And the last?
And I cannot persuade him to buy my brown mare. Though in all other respects his character is irreproachable, you cannot deny me the privilege of disliking him as much as ever.
You are thoughtful, Colonel Brandon.
Your sister, I understand, does not approve of second attachments.
No, her opinions are all romantic.
Thus, she believes such attachments impossible to exist.
I believe she does. Though how she contrives it without reflecting on the character of her own father who had 2 wives, I know not. A few years will settle her opinions on the reasonable basis of common sense and observation.
Most probably. And yet there is something so amiable about the prejudices of a young mind.
I cannot agree with you there. There are inconveniences attending such feelings as Marianne's, which all the charms of enthusiasm and ignorance of the world cannot atone for. Her systems have all the unfortunate tendency of setting propriety at naught.
Are those who have been disappointed in their first choice, whether through the inconstancy of its object or the perverseness of circumstances, to remain indifferent the rest of their lives?
Her principles in such matters can be only defined and justified by herself.
You will, I hope, be frank with me, Miss Dashwood.
I have never yet heard her admit any instance of a second attachment being pardonable.
Well, such ideas cannot hold. And yet, when the romantic refinements of a young mind are obliged to give way, how frequently are they succeeded by such ideas as are too dangerous? I speak from experience. I once knew a young woman who thought and judged like her, but who, through an enforced change, through unforeseen circumstances, it is late. I have outstayed my welcome. Good night, Miss Ashworth.
Good night. Marianne, your carriage ride with Willoughby has extended through the afternoon and worried us all beyond speaking.
The day was so lovely, and the air so fresh, I could not allow Willoughby to turn back.
And where did you go?
Is that question yours to ask, sister?
Did you drive with Willoughby to his home at Allenham, Marianne?
And what if we did?
Marianne.
Is it not what you have often wished to do yourself?
I would not have gone alone with Willoughby.
Mr. Willoughby, however, is the only person who can have the right to show the house. And as we travelled in an open carriage, it was impossible to have any other companion. I have never spent a pleasanter morning in my life.
I am afraid the pleasantness of an employment does not always evince its propriety.
I am not sensible, Eleanor, in having done anything wrong in walking over Mrs. Smith's grounds and in viewing her house. They will one day be Willoughby's.
If they were one day to be your own, Marianne, you would not be justified in what you have done.
If, Eleanor, there had been any real impropriety in my actions, I should have been aware of it at the time, for we always know when we are doing wrong. And with such a conviction, I could have had no pleasure. And, if you care to know, he has given me a horse.
Marianne, you know this is out of the question. Such a present from a man so little, or at least so lately known to you, this is too much.
You are mistaken, Eleanor, in supposing I know so very little of Willoughby. It is not time or opportunity which determines intimacy, it is disposition alone. 7 years may be sufficient for some people to get to know each other, and 7 days may be more than enough for others.
Eleanor, I have heard such news from Margaret. She says she is sure that Marianne will be married to Willoughby very soon.
You have said so almost every day, Mother, since they first met on High Church Down.
Oh, but this is quite another thing. Margaret says he has a lock of Marianne's hair.
Margaret says.
She saw him cut it off last night after tea when we left the room. Margaret says they were whispering together and he seemed to be begging something from her, and then presently he took up her scissors, cut off a long lock, kissed it, folded it up in a piece of white paper and put it in his pocketbook.
Margaret, Mother, reads nothing but fairy tales.
They will be married, Eleanor, I am sure of it, and before the year is out.
Well, this is a fine thing. Fine thing indeed, is it not, Lady Middleton? An excellent gathering, a plentiful breakfast, if I do say so, and the morning rather favourable. Those assembled are in high spirits, or should be, and I will only take this opportunity to say
John.
Nothing at all. I shall say nothing at all, but that at some length.
I always think the difficulty with jest is that some of the party may take it for value.
Which might be the truth of the matter. Something for you here, Colonel Brandon. Pity, really, the ladies don't shoot. First-rate shooting today. What is the matter with Brandon, eh?
Well, it must be something quite extraordinary to allow the Colonel to leave my table in such a way.
No bad news, Colonel, I hope.
No, ma'am, it came from town and is merely a letter of business.
Then how came the hand to discompose you so much? Come, come, Colonel, this will not do. Let us hear the truth of it.
My dear madam, recollect what you are saying.
I am sorry to receive this letter, ma'am, on the day of our outing, for it requires my immediate attendance in town.
But the day's plans are well made, Brandon. You cannot go to town until tomorrow. And surely you will lose nothing.
It is not in my power to delay my journey for one day. Indeed, I cannot afford to lose 1 hour.
Well then, when will you come back again?
It is so uncertain when I have it in my power to return that I dare not engage for it at all.
You do not go to town on horseback, do you?
No, only to Honiton. I shall then go post. Miss Dashwood, is there no chance of my seeing you and your sister in town this winter?
I am afraid none at all.
Then I must bid you farewell for a longer time than I should wish.
Well, this is not quite the thing.
Some people cannot bear a party for pleasure. Brandon is one of them. I would lay 15 guineas that the letter is of his own right.
I have no doubt of it.
Oh, it is about Miss Williams, I am sure.
And who is Miss Williams?
Well, not to shock the young ladies, she is Colonel Brandon's natural daughter.
Indeed, surely not.
Oh, yes, as like him as she can stare. I dare say he will leave her all his fortune. Something very melancholy must be the matter. Perhaps money matters, for land accepted his estate was never reckoned at more than 2,000 a year. Or perhaps she is ill in London. Well, I wish him out of his troubles with all my heart, and a good wife into the bargain.
Tell me, Mrs. Dashwood, do you plan improvements on the cottage come spring?
Well,
What? Improve the cottage? No, not a stone must be added, nor an inch to its size. If my feelings are regarded. To me it is faultless.
With its dark, narrow stairs and kitchen that smokes.
Indeed, perfect in all and everything belonging to it. The cottage will always have one claim on my affection which no other can share. Isn't that so, Marianne? You must not rob it of its simplicity.
I assure you that nothing will be altered so as to disappoint you, Mr. Willoughby.
Then you have assured my happiness.
And now we must go. Your hospitality, Lady Middleton, has been both generous and delightful. Shall we see you for dinner tomorrow, Mr. Willoughby? I will not ask you to come in the morning, as we must see the dressmaker. But would 4 o'clock suit you?
4 o'clock is there, and not a moment later.
I'm rather unsettled, Eleanor, as to the lace that we chose for Marianne. Do you think it too heavy a style?
I think it well chosen, and Marianne will treasure it, Mother. Marianne?
Oh, sister, whatever is the matter? Is she ill?
Indeed, I hope not. More likely it is I who may rather expect to be ill.
Mr. Willoughby?
For I suffer under a heavy disappointment.
Disappointment?
Mrs. Smith has this morning exercised the privilege of riches upon a poor dependent cousin by sending me on pressing business to London.
Oh, but
I have come to bid my farewell of you.
Oh, surely not this very afternoon.
Almost this moment.
Well, this business won't detain you long, I hope.
Your concern is most kind. I have no idea of returning to Devonshire immediately. My visits to Mrs. Smith are never repeated within the 12 months.
We've only just lost Colonel Brandon. Your departure will be too heavy for our small society to bear. Say you will return within a week, within a month. Mrs. Smith is not your only friend. Barton Cottage is always open to you to visit or to stay.
It's most kind. I'm sorry, I cannot collect myself. My engagements at present, they are of such a nature that... Indeed, I dare not flatter myself to think that... folly to linger in this manner. I will not torment myself by remaining amongst friends whose society it is now impossible for me to enjoy.
Mr. Willoughby, you know this to be a serious blow to my sister, perhaps...
I cannot. I cannot. Pray excuse me.
Mr. Willoughby!
Ever can have happened? Can they have quarrelled? No. No, rather I think Mrs. Smith suspects his regard for Marianne. She disapproves of it and she sends him off. And he is aware of her disapproval and dares not, therefore, at present, confess to her his engagement to Marianne. Now, Eleanor, what have you to say?
I can hardly tell. But suspicion of something unpleasant is the inevitable consequence of such an alteration as we have just witnessed in him.
What is it you suspect him of?
Mr. Willoughby may undoubtedly have very sufficient reasons for his conduct, and I will hope he has. And yet, secrecy may be advisable, but I still wonder at it being practised by him.
But surely you must see the justice of what I have just said in his defence.
Not entirely. But it may be proper for them to conceal their engagement, if they are engaged, from Mrs. Smith. But that is no excuse for their concealing it from us.
Concealing it from us? Well, this is strange when your eyes have been reproaching them every day for their incautiousness.
I want no proof of their affection, but of their engagement I do.
Well, I am perfectly satisfied as to that.
Yet not one syllable has been said on the subject by either of
I
them.
have not wanted syllables when their actions have spoken so plainly. Well, has not his behaviour towards Marianne, and indeed to all of us, at least for the last fortnight, declared that he loved her and considered her as his future wife, and felt for us the affection due to the nearest relation?
Their silence, mother, outweighs all circumstances.
Do you think him indifferent?
No. No, I cannot think that. We must wait and watch. I have never considered this matter as certain. If we find they correspond, then every fear of mine shall be removed.
Oh, my gracious girl. Well, is he not a man of honour and feeling? Or can he be deceitful?
I hope not. I believe not, but I cannot answer this question, mother. Knowing that by declining your invitation, he should seem to act an ungenerous, even suspicious part by our family, why, in such a case, could he not take a frank and open avowal of his difficulties? Why, mother? Why do you not ask Marianne at once whether she is or is not engaged to Willoughby? From you, so indulgent and kind a mother, the question could not give offence.
I would not dare to ask such a question for all the world. Supposing they are not engaged? Oh, what distress would not such an inquiry inflict? Oh, I should never deserve her confidence again.
Oh, mother, forgive me, but your generosity is overstrained. Common sense, common care, common prudence are all sunk in your romantic delicacy. Forgive me. The weather is very bright. Will you walk with me, sister?
No. Thank you. Have the letters been fetched yet?
They have.
And?
Marianne, we never finished Hamlet. Our dear Willoughby went away before we could get through it. Shall we read it together?
To hear Ophelia's drowning, you mean?
Well, perhaps I'll put it by when he comes again. But it may be many months before that happens.
Months? No, nor many weeks. Good heavens! Eleanor! It is Edward!
What, here at the cottage? Oh, how very wonderful indeed.
He is the this moment be forgiven for not being Willoughby? Your smile is happiness for me, sister.
Just see whom I have brought.
Dearest Edward, our surprise and happiness are both complete. But how did you find the cottage? Did you come direct from London?
From London? No, I have been in Devonshire for a fortnight. Mr. Ashford.
Mr. Ferrers.
A fortnight and not been to see us?
I have been staying with some friends near Plymouth.
Have you lately been in Sussex?
I was at Norland a month ago.
How does dear Norland look?
Dear Norland probably looks much as it always does at this time of year. Woods and walks covered thickly in dead leaves.
How I love them, driven about me in showers by the wind.
It is not everyone who has your passion for dead leaves.
There is one who does.
You have grown a little more grave than you were.
Nay, Edward, you need not reproach me. You yourself are not in spirits.
Gaiety was never part of my character.
I have often fancied people to be so much more gay or grave or ingenious or stupid than they really are without giving myself time to deliberate or judge.
But Eleanor, I thought we were given our judgments merely to be subservient to those of our neighbours.
You have not then been able to bring your sister over to your plan of general civility.
Quite to the contrary.
My judgment is with you, but I fear my practice is rather more as your sister sees it. I never wish to offend, but I'm so foolishly shy that I sometimes seem negligent.
Well, Marianne has not shyness to excuse her inattentions.
She knows her work too well for false shame. Shyness is only the effect of some sense of inferiority or other. Were it not true, then I would not be shy.
But you would still be reserved of feelings, and that is worse.
Are my feelings not known, Marianne?
Not at all.
You do not understand me. My feelings reserved. I have feelings, I assure you.
Marianne calls everyone reserved who does not speak as quickly or admire what she admires as rapturously as herself.
It has been my great pleasure to reacquaint myself with all of your family. You must forgive me now, for I must go to the village to see to my horses.
Must you?
I shall come back again, if I am allowed.
Not simply allowed, but commanded.
Marianne.
What's this, Edward? I've never seen you wear a ring before. Is that your sister's hair in it? But I'd have thought her hair had been darker.
Yes, it is my sister's hair. The setting casts it differently in the light.
I will show you out.
Or is it your hair, Eleanor?
You are sure your ankle feels strong enough for the walk back from
It is
town?
quite well, and perhaps we may see Edward.
Yoo-hoo, my dear Miss Dashwood. A treat, I promise you, for all are concerned. Miss Eleanor Dashwood, Miss Marianne Dashwood. Allow me to introduce Miss Lucy Steele. She is a relative of mine come down to visit. I hope and believe you will like one another enormously.
It is a very great pleasure.
Oh, you are agreeable girls indeed, the sweetest girls in the world. And I hope you will find Miss Lucy Steele to be particularly civil. Now, Marianne, my dear, will you come with me for just 1 moment to advise them on knowledge which I am considering purchasing? I shall deliver you in an instant.
What a sweet woman Mrs. Jennings is.
She has been more than kind to our family.
And how do you like Devonshire, Miss Dashwood? I'm told you were very sorry to leave Sussex.
Indeed, my family had been established there some time.
And had you a great many smart beaux there? There are not, I suppose, too many in this part of the world. I only mention of it, as I hope you will not find it dull in Barton.
I am sure there are genteel young men in Devonshire.
I hope I do not offend.
On the contrary, you are very pleasant and conversable.
You are very kind. I like you enormously. You will think my question now not one, I dare say. But pray, are you personally acquainted with your sister-in-law's mother, Mrs. Ferrers?
I have never seen Mrs. Ferrers.
I'm sure you think me very strange to be inquiring about her in such a way, but perhaps there might be reasons.
I should be very glad of your advice on how to manage in such an uncomfortable situation as I am in.
And I am sorry I cannot assist, but really I never understood you were at all connected with that family.
I'm sure I need not have the smallest fear in trusting you, even on slight acquaintance. I am, dear Miss Dashwood, so without a confidant. Mrs. Ferrars is certainly nothing to me at present, but the time may come when we will be very intimately connected.
Do you mean you are acquainted with Mr. Robert Ferrars, the brother? Can you be?
No, not to Mr. Robert Ferrars. I never saw him in my life. But to his elder brother, Edward.
I am surprised.
I dare say you are, which is always meant to be a great secret, kept so by me to this hour.
You are engaged, then?
4 years. Our acquaintance, however, is of many years' date. He was 4 years with my uncle as a pupil, and it was there our engagement was formed, though not till he'd quitted as a student. I was very unwilling to enter into it without the approbation of his mother. But I loved him too well to be so prudent as I ought to have been.
Engaged to Mr. Edward Ferrars. I confess myself so totally surprised that really, surely, there must be some mistake of person or name. We cannot mean the same Edward Ferrars.
The very same. Our first care has been to keep the matter secret.
4 years. You have been engaged.
Yes. And heaven knows how long we may have to wait. Poor Edward puts him quite out of heart. I have only this dear miniature of his dear face. I am sure of your faithfully keeping this secret, for it must not reach his mother. She will oppose us, I fear, for I have no fortune.
Your situation is indeed a perilous one.
We hardly meet above twice a year, Miss Dashwood. I'm sure I wonder my heart is not quite broke. Sometimes I think to break the matter off entirely. But I've not the resolution for it. What would you advise me to do in such a case?
Oh, pardon me, but I can give no advice under such circumstances. It is too much for an indifferent person.
'Tis because you are an indifferent person that I ask you. If you could be biased in any respect by your own feelings, your opinions would not be worth having.
Your own judgment must direct you.
To be sure. Poor fellow. He writes in such wretched spirits. I did give him a lock of my hair set in a ring when he was at Longstaple last. Perhaps you noticed it when you saw him.
I did.
Here we are, Miss Eleanor.
It has been a pleasure, Miss Dashwood.